So I'm just going to pass around so you guys can touch and feel and look. This is one of our omnidirectional antennas for a 2.4 and 5 gigahertz band. And this is the 466 indoor AP, dual radios, run both 5 gigahertz. This does require external antennas. Can't stress that enough. If you order or you're playing with a 466 or you order it for testing, you have to order external antennas.
I take it you guys get lots of orders that don't have antennas.
I didn't get antennas with this.
Exactly.
You should force that with the part.
I was about to say, you need to trigger it so that if you try to order it without antennas, it goes, did you forget something?
We triggered it inside of Iris now, so it won't happen. But there's still a lot floating around, and we get the calls like, "Hey, I'm not getting, I'm up really close. When I'm this close, I can see my SSID. I'm going to stand 3 feet back."
On the ladder and hold my
Exactly. So if you wouldn't mind passing those around, just take a look at them. And the other thing too is you can lock these down with the Kensington lock style deal. Multiple connection mounting types, plenum rated. You're good to go. All right. MSM 720. This is a new product in our controller series. It supports up to 40 APs. Like I said, we had this major gap between 10 APs and 200. We needed something for that mid-size market. It supports all the features of the MSM product set, so it supports teaming. It supports N+1 failover. You can use this for outdoor deployment, for any of the APs. And without saying it, if you look at it up there, it looks exactly like the switch. So it's the same footprint, same everything as a switch, except it doesn't have the 4. It doesn't have 8 ports. It has 4, and then the 2 dual personality ports.
Are there any bandwidth limitations from a horsepower perspective, or can we support? What is it for? 4 gigabits of wire speed throughput.
Well, that's the front ports. So you've got the internals yet. We'll get into it, but based on this, you can use LACP, bring these together, and bring them up to a switch if you want. And I can get into some deployment stuff.
So when your competitors have, for example, 4 1 gigabit ports, the horsepower inside of the box is insufficient to support 4 gigs of throughput. So they're internally rate limited at somewhere between 300 and 500 megabits per second. Mm-hmm. So do we have a similar limitation on this, or do we expect full 4 gigs?
You won't get full 4 gig.
No.
This is a small for 40 AP deployment.
Do you know where that number lands in the throughput?
I'll have to look that up for you, where it looks at the throughput. We can see it on block diagram. I think it's a 1 gig internal trace. But one of the things, our deployment models are to say, drop everything local, don't tunnel a lot back. So for most control traffic, 1 gig interface is should be more than enough horsepower for any of that. But I can find the exact number for you. Okay, so the 2 models are a worldwide version, a TAA version. If you're in the federal government, you need TAA compliant products nowadays. That's a new. A year ago, you really didn't see much about it. Nowadays, everybody needs TAA compliant products. So this is a TAA compliant products. They have the 720 access controller and a 720 premium mobility controller. Now, what we've done is taken a controller and taken the mobility piece out of it. So for a small customer that doesn't require the mobility, layer 3 roaming, tunnel from controller to controller and things back, we set up a standard access controller. In a typical deployment you'll see them in is a standalone single controller, small, medium type business stuff. Then we also have the premium controller, which you can take an access controller as somebody grows and bring it up to premium controller. What it allows you to do now is do teaming, layer 3 roaming, MTM access for tunneling back to a central controller, all that fun stuff. So that's the difference between an access controller and a premium mobility controller. Any questions on that? We just made it more cost effective for customers that don't need that feature.
Those are hardware differences or software?
Software license difference.
So if I wanted to, I could take the 720 access and upgrade it to a premium.
And to a premium controller. Exactly. We're going to get into that.
We just hammered Aruba on licensing, so I'd like to just hammer you on it and say, why license a mobility feature? I mean, I think mobility is core to Wi-Fi. I mean, if you're going to rip a mobility feature out of Wi-Fi, I think it's just such a fundamental piece of Wi-Fi that I don't understand ripping it out and licensing it separate. That's all. That'd be all my thing. And we just hit Aruba for that. So to be fair, I'd say I don't know that from a customer standpoint that needs to be a licensable feature. I think that should be something that's stock.
Yeah. It's
See,
not
like
it's not the roaming internal. So roaming inside the controller, all my APs connected to that controller, I can roam from AP to AP. It's now if I have two of these controllers and I want to roam from controller to controller, that's where the difference between the access controller and the premium controller license comes in.
So it's the tunneling between.
It's a tunneling between them, yes. So I'm not going to beat you. Yeah. So if you it's not like you're going to be walking along, and every AP you're going to drop, reassociate, and go. You'll still roam.
Okay, that's a good
in turn-
clarification.
Yeah. Okay. This will support 40 APs. It comes out of the box supporting 10 APs. License upgrades. It's based on the 2520 8G chassis. 2520 8G chassis. Looks exactly like this, except it has 4 ports in the front versus the 8. 4 ports of 10100 plus dual personality ports. These are non-PoE ports. External power supply, limited lifetime warranty on the hardware. Here's what the internals look like. The question was, how do I get from the front end to the controller? Your answer is 2 gig.
If you go back one slide, you were talking about lifetime warranty on the hardware. What about access to software upgrades, bug fixes, feature releases? Especially if you're going to be licensing major feature releases within different software sets. Are you giving 3 software updates for the life of the product? How is that?
Let me get. I'll have to get clarification on that because that varies. So I'll find out specifically for this product for you before we leave today. Okay.
I know that on the access layer switches, there's so long as they're developing software, you can always upgrade for free.
Yeah. I'll find out exactly on that, but I think there's a difference between the access and a premium license. But like I said, before we leave here today, I'll make a call and get the exact answer. But to answer your question on the MSM 720, so here's the front end. So this is the 4 ports out the front, your mini gigabit Ethernet connections, your 4 gig connections, and then here's your dual core processor. And you were asking about the interface between. It's 2 gigs going to the wireless side of it.
Why is the flash optional on a hardware platform?
It just gives you capabilities of maybe later.
Is that a piece you have to order?
No, it's not.
Well, this is on the.
This is actually this is on the board, so it's there. I'm sure it's there for later enhancements if we need it or whatever. But it's not a field replaceable. It's not an orderable unit. It's nothing like that.
Oh, it's not like an external port.
No,
or
no.
Or like upgrades things like that.
No. It's actually inside the box. All right. So licensing. Andrew, I'll let you beat me up now.
Oh,
So we're actually taking the licensing and we put it into packages of 10 now. So you don't have to buy, 50 licenses and only need 10. So we taken the licensing model and shrunk it down, and so you're not paying for a lot of APs that you don't need. So the 720 ships with 10 licenses out of the box, so it'll support 10 APs, and you can upgrade it with 10 packs of license to get to the max of 40. The premium license supports the same features as the 7.6 Extra Premium license, with the exception of teaming support, full teaming support. So it does HA, and I'll get into some examples of it, but has everybody heard of HP's teaming that we do N+1? So we can, and I'll explain it. So our MSM 760 controllers support 200 APs. I can stack 5 of those together in a team, and now they act as one ubiquitous unit. I can lose any one of those units because I have my 5th controller and still maintain my group of 800 APs. That's teaming. With the 720, teaming's not there. It does an N+N type configuration, so you can balance 20 on one, 20 on the other, and have one fail over for overall 40, or you can put 80 between the two and lose 40 access points depending on how you want to do it, but it's made for high availability. So 40 APs, so in a typical environment, if I'm doing HA with 40 APs, I would have 2 720 controllers, I would have 20 on one controller, 20 on the other controller, and if one fails, then everybody can fail over too. The other 20 can move over, yes.
The premium licenses, you need to do that the same way you did with the
switches, 3500s, and 5400s, and 8200s, and just get rid of it altogether.
Every license is a premium license. Now,
Gotcha.
are these licenses the same as you would get on the bigger controllers? Do they migrate?
No, they don't migrate. It's per unit. So you're always running that dilemma. So now I take my box and I jack up the price because I'm running premium controllers on all my boxes, right? So I have to jack up my price. I'm running premium licenses on my controller. Now I took a whole demographic that we have because we don't have the premium license on there and just got rid of them now because they've got to pay more for the cost-effective box that they used to. So you always have to do the balance with licensing and your demographic out there.
Well, you could say the same thing about the switches that you just did that with too. So
And
that was a great decision, I think.
yeah.
Well, I don't know, I mean, I get to the point where technology should be built with scalability and high availability in mind, and if that's not a core functionality, it should be a core functionality in any design. So I just don't understand licensing and
I think the difference is the manufacturer's perspective is when we make everything a premium license, everybody's got to pay this top tier. And our understanding is when you make everything the same, we all pay the same base rate. And so there's a discrepancy between what we believe should be level set as far as the industry is concerned from a base feature set that should be included with every platform, simplified licensing management at that base rate. And manufacturers are more and more eking out the premium dollars on these licensing that we all feel should be included, not at a premium level, included in the base components.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I just get back to this point. I mean, IT has a fundamentally bad rap for having poor service to end users, no matter where you look. Right? It's always a problem, no matter what specific field you're in. And I think it's because of this type of mindset where high availability is an add-on. It's never, it's never what should just be done in the first place. And so if we keep that mentality, I mean, it's nothing with HP. It's nothing with, I mean, all the vendors do it. It's like I just think it needs to be the mentality of high availability should be the standard, and we should just say that's how we do it.
But there are some places where high availability isn't even an option.
Yeah.
Go buy through SLED. You try to buy a redundancy on the government's dime, they're going to want their money back because they don't believe in the concept.
At the bare minimum, if you have two controllers paired and all of your APs on one, assuming that the other one's just a hot standby, at the very minimum, your licensing for the hot standby shouldn't have to be an exact duplicate of the licensing that you have for all your
License
APs being on
should
that
transfer
one.
over.
It should transfer over.
So that's a
when
good
the
question.
failure happens.
How does the AP
Systems
licensing
did.
happen on standby controllers?
On
then?
HA deployment.
Now, when you're doing this, it's the licensing for because the license, it's not the premium license, it's actually the HP license, we pool the AP licensing. To get the feature enabled, it's
So
just, to get the feature enabled, you have to have the premium license. So here's
How's your AP licensing happen?
it's
If you
pooled,
have
it's
40
pooled between the two.
So if I have 40
Do 20 and
APs,
20.
20 and 20.
20 and 20,
I don't have to buy
yes.
40, I don't have to buy 80?
No,
Okay.
it's all pooled there. So we've taken that.
Yeah.
So the issue is, back to your point, if you are working with the federal government, there's a lot of places that they say you have redundancy built in. They don't even want to talk to you.
Right.
So we can lay it out. There would be nothing that says, because you can order this not as a license, because we have two controllers. You have the access controller and you have the mobility controller. So you can order it just as a mobility controller. It has a licensing and everything already in it. So I mean, it'd be just, I guess, simple as a drop a SKU, and you would never even know that other one was there.
Yeah, it's already built into it.
It's already built in, yeah. So,
Okay.
but it gives
Good
other
test.
people, yeah.
It's already there.
Well,
Built it
and
in.
Tom, I get your point that, some places they can't, so then you just don't buy the extra redundant controllers, and that's a passive design. I'm just saying, as IT professionals, high availability shouldn't be a standard design unless the customer says no.
I would love it. I would love, because we've always said that when you actually order this, what you meant is you're ordering two, because they should never be sold anything other than in pairs because of high availability, redundancy, and all that other stuff. It's just that there are still people who don't get that, and maybe that needs to be us as a better job of IT people saying, really, we need to buy double.
Right, and I think when there's SKUs that say, well, there's additional licensing for high availability, it makes the impression that high availability is an add-on, not something that is being done in standard designs.
Right,
And
you start out small with what you need, and then
You
you
know,
decide you want to do HA. Well, now
maybe
you have
it's me
another
with
big purchase.
mindset type of framing it up. I think everything is how perception, right, and how you frame up a problem, and how,
Right.
you know, it's like,
No, I
and
agree.
that's all I'm alluding to is that
You got to remember here too is that it's only in the last like 2-3 years that this has become mission critical to people. Before, I mean, in those kind of timeframes before that, why would you buy HA if it's not mission critical?
Yeah, it's like the slide Aruba showed us earlier. It used to be that Wi-Fi was for meeting rooms for you to, have presentations, and now we're finally getting to the point where wireless can't be down.
I get that. So
Yeah.
maybe a good comparison for me then, can you tell me how HA licensing is done on data center equipment? Is it a premium license upgrade for high availability on data center equipment, or is it just you get it when you buy the hardware?
Depends on
It's
the
a hardware
manufacturer.
upgrade cost usually.
It
It
is.
depends on the manufacturer.
Yeah, I would argue on that one too. Then I'm like, in data center, I would think high availability would be a stock feature. You buy the hardware, you get high availability.
Well, in HP, you do. In our data center equipment, you buy the thing. We utilize IRF as our high availability
Well,
mechanism.
it's like the
You talking
Acer-
dual soups, or you talking like software
Well,
based?
I'm talking not hardware. I'm talking from a software licensing
Yeah, it's baked
perspective.
in.
It's
pretty
baked
much
in,
every
right?
major-
And then it's up to you to just design it with the right hardware to take advantage of it, right?
Right, as far as software based high availability, as far as like, layer 3 and layer 2 connectivity type things, spanning tree, HSRP, VRP.
Spanning tree is an HA mechanism.
Well,
Scary.
in terms of
But yeah.
maintaining flow, yeah, it's baked in. It's only when you get into the newer, the fabric based.
Well, like if you're in a firewall that has state replication, right? It's usually not a license upgrade to enable state replication, right?
Depending on the manufacturer.
Depends on who you're buying from.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what I'm saying is it permeates a lot of different areas, and I think that this type of software differentiation for high availability, I think it should be
Well, it's,
Just stop.
and maybe it's because security is at the same point wireless is, where it has traditionally been active passive is acceptable, and now we're at the point where active active needs to be important. So we've made the move from redundancy to availability. So we've already made that move from a design perspective, but maybe the rest of the industry needs to catch up to that point so that we're all in the same frame of reference to say, all right, we've all agreed that redundancy is so 2007, and now we're 2012, we all need to be available.
yeah.
And keep in mind too, there's a lot of verticals out there that redundancy is not important. Hospitality, one, hotels. That's a huge dollar business every year, and to
Everybody
them,
feels the pain of their choices.
exactly.
Exactly.
I'm living it today in a hotel I'm staying in. But there's a huge vertical market out there that doesn't require redundancy.
Well, and what I'm saying is if there's the differentiation from a software licensing perspective, if they have a cheaper option, they're going to go with that, right? So if it's not an option and it's just you get the software capability with it and it's baked in, maybe it's a different story, right?
And then you still got the hardware perspective on it, though, where you have to buy the extra box.
Absolutely.
But controllers are going away anyway, so
But
I'm not
then we
touching
have,
that one.
But then we have a huge software problem.
Oh, just a standard, the intelligent AP, huh? Exactly. Okay. All right. Beat up licensing enough. It's a lot of it's just marketing, how you position it. I mean, we could drop a SKU, then I wouldn't even be talking about this.
It's
So
licensing in general. We're not picking on you guys. We just hate licensing all over.
everybody does. I hate it too. Try to configure this stuff with licensing. So I agree. So we understand that the 720, just for teaming support, is a 2-box solution. It's HA. Okay. Some of the 5.7 features, it has all the existing features as 5.4. Different features are the 10 AP license upgrade for the APs, 250 simultaneous guest accesses. We can support up to 64 VSCs, which for an industry standard is SSID. We can support up to 64. 16 VSCs with the access control version, premium license to get up to your full amount. Like I say, I can't stress it enough. Teaming support only is HA purposes, not for scalability. It's designed for a small, medium business to have a redundancy factor there, not to scale it up.
Have you heard people using 64 SSIDs?
Typically not, unless they're major large environments, and then we're not into this.
Well, but if you're
That's
doing
crazy.
a controller that's managing groups of access points, and then you 3 over here, 3 different ones over here, 3 different ones
Oh,
over
that's a
here,
good point, yeah.
that can add up quickly. And so, in order to break that 16 number,
Yeah, that's
But if you're doing that, then you're dealing with the roaming portion of it, which you need the licenses for.
Not really. I mean, if I'm managing, you know, it's not uncommon to have a site with 3, 4, sometimes even 5 SSIDs, distinctly different geographical sites that you're.
Okay, I
gonna
see what you're
move
saying there.
between,
Mhm.
right? You know, Hospital X or you know, major corporation with sub corporations are all going to have different named SSIDs potentially.
Gotcha.
Just a time check, we can talk about it in time, we've got about 15 minutes.
Okay, we're almost done here. We're in question and answer.
What was the code level at when HP bought Colubris?
I wouldn't know. That was way
Okay.
before my time.
Okay.
I'm from the 3Com acquisition,
Okay,
so
okay.
that was way before my time. I've got a spreadsheet, and I could probably
Okay. Yeah,
after
just
we're
kinda-
done here, we can stop.
Just kind of curious as a reference of, you know, version changes since then.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got a spreadsheet. I can look back on it and see
Alright.
back in the day what it was at. Okay, so here's a virtual controller. Here's a scenario one where we bought one controller with just the base unit. We bought another controller, added 30 AP license, and now because they pool them, they can fail over. Fail of the controllers, the APs fail over to the second controller because we pool the license. Just an example of how we're doing it. And then here's where we license 2 controllers for 20 apiece, and if one fails, the other fails over. Just very simple. We pool the licensing, to your point, Andrew. It makes it easier on it.
Yeah, some vendors don't do that. They require licensing on both.
Yeah, in our old H3C series stuff, for high availability, you had to have licensing. Even if you did a 1+1 or an N+1 style backup, you had to have all the licensing on the controller. So we actually pool it with the MSM products. And this is even the MS760, 765, any of the MSM controllers. They pool the licensing in a teaming environment. Hardware features, you saw this stuff already. No PoE, just want to point that out, no PoE. The other thing is, with the 720 for your medium style businesses, it does not have a fan in it, so it's nice and quiet, so it doesn't have to go in a closet. But it does come with rack mount ears if you want to rack mount it in a closet somewhere, but it is fanless. The interface features, 410, 100, 1000 ports. They're access ports. Support 2 access ports with different management IPs, so we can split them up. Internally, if you remember the back to the block diagram, we had 2 interfaces coming in to the controller. You can split those up how you want to use them. We do HP trunking or LACP. If you're familiar with the ProCurve product, it's called trunking, which is basically a version of LACP, except it's HP's version of it. It's not VLAN trunking, ISL, whatever you call it. It's just bonding a couple links together. So in trunking, we can support 2 links per trunk, and LACP, we can use all 4, or actually all 6 to connect the trunk. And shipping contents, so you might see that, and that's it. So now we've got about 15 minutes for Q&A.
I'd like to revisit beamforming,
Okay.
specific to Atheros chipsets in particular. So some of your competitors are beamforming out to all clients, and that's implicit versus explicit. What are HP's plans, if any, to support a broader implementation of beamforming?
As of today, standards-based company, standards-based beamforming. We like to, we highly value ourselves as a standards-based company. As you saw back at the initial screen, the initial slide was talking about the flex network architecture, and one of it was open. So we want open protocols and open and standards-based implementation of those protocols.
Any plan to support non-HP access points in an open architecture type format on your controllers?
As of today, the answer would be no. With the advent of CapWAP, I don't know where it's going to go, but until CapWAP is fully implemented, fully deployed, and all the manufacturers grasp it together, and that standard open communication is there, then theoretically, at some point in time, they should be able to support it. Remember the early days of SIP? When you had a SIP phone, everybody said, hey, we're SIP compliant, and you try to plug in a Polycom phone or whoever SIP phone in to try to work with your soft switch. they'll work. Hey, it supported one feature out of the 15. Same, you kind of run early days of CapWAP are going to run into the same type of issue.
Hopefully it gets better, because things haven't changed a whole lot in SIP.
Exactly. So as of today, the answer is no. Okay. Anything else?
Last year when we were here, the sales were largely generated overseas in Asia. I was just wondering if that was typically, how is the HP wireless sales in the U.S.?
I'll have to redirect that one.
We'll have to follow up on that one.
Yep.
Just curious if there was any more penetration into the U.S. market when compared to last year.
Well, one of the slides I have, they said we were number 2 in the Dorloro report or whatever. I can't talk about specifics, dollars or any of that, but last report I saw we were number 2 in the market.
In what? Sales?
In the U.S., and I'll have to look the specifics on it. I can show you after we're done here. But they said we were number 2 for access points.
Okay.
Yeah, and it is at ports. I don't know if it's ports, dollars, whatever it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Units share points.
What's that?
Units share.
Unit share? Okay, so it's unit share.
But for ports meaning wired or for ports?
Wireless.
Wireless.
Specifically to our MSM product, wireless LAN product.
Is that worldwide or in the U.S.?
Worldwide.
That's interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So you're selling, and ports being access points, is that?
Access points, yeah. I use it ubiquitously because it's
No,
it's really
understood,
important. Yeah.
So I imagine probably Cisco's one, right? I mean, they
It depends on who you talk. I'm sure you guys heard everybody all week. They're either number 1 or 2, and you probably talked to 10 vendors, right? And everybody's either 1 or 2. And it's just based upon, it's the whole marketing deal
that's
behind
really
it.
surprising. I'd like to see that.
Yeah. So it's really, like I say, we'll talk to them. I'll throw it out there. Somebody beat me up about it, but you're going to talk to 10 people today over the week or whatever, and everybody's going to say they're number 1, number 2.
Oh no, I understand, but a lot of us work for partners or have, and you see what's in the market, right?
Yeah.
I can't say I've ever ran into HP wireless personally, having worked in largely healthcare. Typically, it's a Cisco, Aruba. Those are the 2 major ones.
But there's a new paradigm shift now too that you're seeing HP now in larger data centers with the acquisition of H3C, right? You're seeing them in the campus environments now coming more and more. Part of that add-on sale is it's more of a solution sell. We're Cisco out there. HP is a large player in the market, which we solution sell now. Everything from the data center to the campus. We have campus architectures.
Right.
Exactly.
Understood.
So we're a lot of wireless guys or niche market guys where they, say, okay, I sell wireless, that's what I sell. We try to bring everything together. That's what that whole flex network architecture was about, flex management, taking the whole single pane of glass management to manage your data center, your campus, your branch, and bringing all the services together. So you'll see more and more of HP out there.
So you stressed earlier the somewhat target of being open in nature and being somewhat, or being reference or standards based and moving from there. It strikes me that attitude is going to stifle innovation, right? When we look to wireless manufacturers, the things that interest us are innovation and what are you going to do different? What are you going to break the mold? How are you going to differentiate yourself? And we've talked to several companies this week that maybe don't do that in hardware, maybe do it in software or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I'm hearing is another Me Too.
Not really. We broke the mold with this right here. We were the industry innovation. Here's a prime innovation for HP and wireless. The 430, 466 access points. We were the first to the market with a 3 spatial stream, 3x3 spatial stream, 802.AF powered only. Support both the 5 gigahertz band and the single radio. That's innovation. We innovated right here. So part of what I'm saying, standards-based, open standards and standards-based implementations, that's a solution set for HP. That includes data center, that includes campus, that includes branch, but we innovate. HP is a huge innovator. We're OpenFlow. Everybody's heard of OpenFlow? We were one of the first to release OpenFlow out to the public on our switches, which and we do it on a VLAN basis.
Do you have an OpenFlow controller?
we use, you can use a Knox controller, you can use Big Switch, you can use the different ones, but there's a, released on the public web, we have OpenFlow on the used to be E-Series, we call them Pro Curve switches, but the 3800, the 3500s, the 54, the 82s, but we innovate. If you were at Network Interop, we had optical backplane running. First in the industry to show that live. So I think as far as HP, huge innovators, huge innovators. It's not a me too, but we have to follow the standards. So, you know, like when CapWAP comes out, if we can do this crazy thing, you know, for provisioning and controlling these APs, but if it's proprietary and CapWAP's out there fully available, you'll get beat up for not supporting CapWAP. So you innovate initially, and then you go to standards-based so we can interoperate. As you were alluding to earlier, it'd be nice if we could have our controller and you were migrating off of XYZ vendor and be able to use their APs that you already put an investment to with a different controller software or whatever that may be.
Thanks for the presentation.
Good.
No,
Thank you.
Thank you.